Hello, thank you for being with me here today. My name is Alan, and I'd like to welcome you into a video that I think is necessary, given the direction and intention behind how I'm going to be using this channel regularly. But first, I would like to share essentially a recounting, a retelling of my life's history. Who is this guy? What's he about? Who is Alan? You may have seen various videos of me playing or performing cello. Maybe you've seen some content, but really I haven't been using my channel all that much. And this is about to change. So I was graced upon this earth in the year of 1999. January 17th specifically, to be exact, at about 7:30 p.m. over in Cambridge, actually, Mount Auburn Hospital. I almost wasn't born for various reasons. My soul would have incarnated elsewhere, but it turns out that my two parents did, in fact, have me. A little bit of a difficult process, but that's all I'll say. And apparently, I do remember that apparently I had a big neck. I had no neck when I came out because I kept hearing this story that my dad told me of the process. This Irish nurse said, "Alan, you have no neck." So yeah, 1999, January 17th, about 7:30 p.m. So I'm a Capricorn Sun, Aquarius Moon, Virgo rising. And the first 5 years of my life were sort of a wash. I mean, come on. Like, I think everyone can say the same thing. Like, who remembers like their first 5 years, right? Like, your consciousness isn't fully formed even, right? So so I know that I began playing cello in 2008, and I was in third grade then. So second grade, first grade, kindergarten, preschool. That means in 2004, I was in preschool. And by the way, I'm in Somerville, Massachusetts at the time of this recording, and it's where I've lived most of my life. And I'm just going to adjust this microphone. Yeah, I did preschool at the Capuano. Forget who my teacher was then. And then after preschool, my kindergarten, I went to John F. Kennedy School. I believe the teacher, I'll just say the last names. Miss Screama, I remember. And one of my childhood friends, Josh, I was friends with that guy for about 10, 12 years. I'm not like close anymore, but my mother was friends with, she met his mother at, in the foyer of that school. And because the two mothers were friends, then the two of us had to kind of be together. But anyway, yeah, Kennedy School, kindergarten, and then first grade, what was that? I forget the name of, Hughes was the last name of my teacher for first grade. Second grade, Johansson. Third grade was Guchamara, but then I transitioned to the Benjamin G. Brown School, and then Texiera was my teacher in third grade there. And this was the year where I started taking cello lessons. This is a very pivotal point in my life, 2008. Very pivotal. I'm thinking off the top of my head here. So I remember us going to the Longy at Bard College in Boston, the Longy School of Music. They had an instrument petting zoo, and my mother took me there. And I tried all the instruments, and I was really drawn to the string room. I wanted to play the double bass at first, and I did want to. I wanted to play the low one, the big one. I liked how it sounded. And according to my dad, I think I said the violin sounded too girly. Apparently, that was the word I used. And besides, he didn't want to lug around the bass, so we compromised on the cello. So I started taking lessons with, I'll say, Miss Knowles was the one. Knowles, and they're close by to me, right? They were. I don't know how she is. I haven't checked up on her in a long time. But anyway, yeah. So I started doing that in 2008. I was in third grade. Fourth grade, I believe the last name was. My teacher was Di Pasquale, still at the Brown School. Yeah, Miss Di Pasquale. Fifth grade, it was sort of a slip between Miss Lynch and Miss Dumas. Sixth grade, it was Miss Miller. And then because that school only went up to sixth grade, then I went to the West Somerville Neighborhood School, and there was sort of like some pods. They had like 7A, 7B, 8, and then like something 7C, 7D. But then they had, so there were four teachers who had, two of them had seventh grade homerooms, two of them had eighth grade homerooms. The two seventh grade teachers were, I believe, Miss Cleveland, whose husband I think was actually related to the President Grover Cleveland, and then Mr. the last name was Beebe, was in the first year. Then the second year, I think Mr. Bridge was the one when I was in eighth grade, and then the other teachers were Miss Thompson and then Mr. Bruno. Mr. Bruno, he was at the time, the other three teachers besides Bruno, they were there for like a long time. So like Beebe and Thompson, like they were near to retiring, right? Bruno might still be there. I don't know. He was only there for like, I'm not going to share that, but just sharing the last name out. But the whole point is that during that time, yeah, I was also, I switched cello instructors. I'm not going to say the name of who my second instructor was, just because currently things went south between me, and I'm not even going to say their gender. This was my second instructor who, until I went into music school, they were teaching me cello lessons. They did a lot of heavy lifting with my playing. And I was also playing in different prep ensembles at Longy School of Music, their Saturday programs for youth. And then I went to Somerville High School, I believe 2013 through 2017. And I think I played in their school string orchestra for like the first 2 years, and then I dropped out because it was just so beneath my level. It was holding me back, really. And it was like every year the skill level always stayed the same. Here I was, doing concerto competitions while you had violins holding a bow like that. You can imagine the disconnect there, right? And the only smart kids were the ones who were in the AP ones. And they were in AP trying to get into good like Ivy League schools, so they didn't practice. But I was like, I was the one who was the cello kid, I was doing the music thing, right? And so during that time, while I was at Somerville High School, on Saturdays, I was at NEC, New England Conservatory Prep, and their Saturday program, with the Professor Abreu, I did a Baroque ensemble for a couple of years. I played a couple times as soloist with what was his name? I'll say. The renowned recorder player, and he conducted the Baroque Chamber Orchestra. The last name was Abreu, and if you just type in Abreu recorder, you'll know who I'm talking about. And him, and then Mr. Lister, I was in his composition seminar and a chamber group for a couple of years, and then also, I believe, what was it? The first year I was in junior repertory orchestra. The second year I was in youth repertory orchestra. I think I was principal that year, principal cello that year. And then youth symphony orchestra. No, first was junior repertory orchestra, youth repertory orchestra, and then youth symphony orchestra at NEC Prep in my junior year. And I think I was third chair in that year. And the last year I was, I don't want to talk about it. I was in another orchestra that I dropped out of. But anyway, so that brings me up to 2017. Which is another significant year. So far I've talked about the years I was born, 1999, 2008 was when I started playing cello, and then 2017, that's when I started music school. My undergrad I did at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. I studied with Professor Rhonda Ryder there for 4 years, whole degree. And then immediately after that degree, that one ends, the next year I begin immediately in Manhattan School of Music. I study contemporary cello performance with Professor Fred Sherry in New York, and I was living in the dorm at the time. Now, all of this time, this whole life of mine, I was living under the impression that I would be a performing cellist, that my life would kind of be handed to me on a silver platter, right? And that all, let me make sure I'm still recording, yeah. That all changed in November 2022. I remember it vividly. Sorry, this is just difficult for me because I'm revisiting a moment that I'd rather not, but this was a defining moment for me. Coincidentally, it was right after daylight savings time ended. But yeah, so it's like right after the first week in November. I think it was November 7th or November 8th. I had an elective recital, right? Because I was in master's and I knew that I didn't want to do a doctorate because I didn't care for all the coursework. I wanted to do what I thought I was going to do an artist diploma, right? So I was going to use the recordings from my recital and I was going to use those to submit. Or so I thought. So November 8th comes along. I specifically scheduled my recital to be on um, a a weekday. I think it was a Monday at 8 p.m. So that way, right, people could come and listen. Turns out there were like 3 people in the audience, despite me telling everyone about it. So it was a bit of a lonely experience, right? But my programming was what was it? Bach Suite 6, the whole suite from memory. Right? Well, no, yeah. No, yeah, no, wait. No, yeah, yeah. No, well, first it was no, first I did Memory for Solo Cello by Chen Yi, and the only reason I had to play that was because that school had this stupid fucking policy that you had to have at least one piece by a non-male or non-female composer. I mean, talk about goody two-shoes virtue signaling. Look for their radical left donor base. I mean, the bias in classical music academia is just off the fucking charts. Excuse me. Forced virtue. So they wouldn't let me play a recital unless, even though I had it planned, you know, I had these things planned out. I was like, but female, but non-white. See, the indoctrination is it's just disgusting, I think. It's for the wrong reasons. Like, yeah, I get their intention, but I mean, forcing it, I mean, come the fuck on. Anyway, so then I did Charles Warren in Cello Variations 2. The reason I did that is because my teacher at the time, Fred Sherry, recorded it. So I wanted to learn from, you know, primary source, right? He worked with Warren in, right? It was a 12-tone composer. It's sort of the New York serialist school. Elliott Carter, Charles Warren, and Milton Babbitt. Sherry worked with all 3. But then Fred Sherry was also a friend of Nell Bwedlinger, I think, was a cellist, who played with Frank Zappa, who also played with, you know, what was his name? What was his name? Guitarist. Really famous, Steve Vai. No, not Steve, no. Could have been Steve Vai. I forget. So anyway, Fred Sherry, he was I don't know. So all of what I'm saying is that, let me get back to, I was talking about the recital. So Chen Yi, Memory for Solo Cello, Charles Warren in Cello Variations 2, Bach Suite 6, which by the way was written for a 5-string cello, a piccolo cello. So it was way harder than it was meant to be, right? Like thumb position and everything. Intermission, and then Prokofiev's Sinfonia Concertante for cello. So I bit off way more than I could chew. And at this time, I didn't know how to practice. I knew how to learn. I knew how to play things in isolation, but I didn't know how to put things together. So needless to say, I sounded like absolute dog shit in the Bach and the Prokofiev. Couldn't use the recording. The deadline passed, and I literally killed myself. I literally had suicidal thoughts. I wanted to jump out the window. I wanted to go to sleep, and I did not want to wake up the next day. That night after that recital, I could not sleep a wink. I was pacing back and forth in my room until 3 a.m. until I went out and bought a Sierra Nevada 6-pack of a hazy IPA just so I could drink myself to sleep for 2 hours, and then I woke up at 5 a.m., couldn't go back to sleep, because my life is like falling apart, right? That was a traumatic experience for me. I was experiencing suicidal thoughts. Okay? I'm sorry, it's just... While one of my contemporaries was applying and successfully, and I congratulate her, you know, after she graduated, she went on to, no, actually, I was in my second year. She was already an adjunct professor at, I'll say the name of the school, DePaul University, and now she's an assistant professor at Ithaca College of Music and a co-artistic director of a string ensemble. Meanwhile, I'm living at home with mommy and daddy working at a fucking grocery store. What the fuck happened? I don't know. I'll get to that. The thing is, so while she was off doing that, here I was having a quarter-life crisis. At this point, I was just like, I wanted to not exist anymore. I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to be there. I almost didn't come back for the second semester. And then That was November 8th. So I survived for a couple weeks until Thanksgiving when such a bittersweet thing happened. I had a video chat call with my parents, and I was eating dinner with them while they were eating, and I just wanted to be back there so much, but here I was in this fucking dorm. And what made it worse was that, I was in this vulnerable state, and then we were just playing, because it was contemporary performance, we were playing this pretentious ass, just scritchy ass music that, like, was not beautiful at all. This was the lowest place of my life. Yeah, no, the ending of 2022 for me was just horrible. I was in retreat mode. So then I just made it through um, to the end of that semester, and I got picked up at the end of the semester. I got picked up. My dad drove down there. At the as he does with all semesters. He'd drive down there, come back with here, and the break was 3 weeks long. So the first week and a half of the break was absolutely great. I was so grateful to be back. But then the second half of the break, that was when I realized I was in the eye of the storm. Right, because I knew I had to go back, and I didn't want to. And the closer I got, the worse my breakdowns became. There was one moment when I remember I was in my bathroom late one night, and I broke down crying so hard that my tears turned into laughter. Like, I was just so psychologically broken. I was just like, it was literally like, it sounded like a crazy person laughing uncontrollably because I had cried so hard. I didn't want to go back. Sorry. Let me take a sip of water. Yeah, I'm going to leave this uncut. And then another day after that, closer to when I was going to leave, I just remember I was by the kitchen sink crying so hard, but then I was just thinking about going back. I was like hyperventilating, literally screaming, like not like like when you're scared. No, kind of like, like when you get crushed by a horse or you get in a car crash, like I did. I'll get to that. It's like like you're literally losing your shit, having a cry. That was me. So it was hard, but I went back. And I was counting the days. So much so, my dad, when he drove me back for the spring semester, he had to drive me around the block of the school a couple times just because I was broken. I didn't want to go back. I'm kind of glad that I did, in retrospect, but it was so hard. I was counting the days, the weeks. I remember it was 6 days. I marked it all in my calendar. Days. I was counting the weeks. I had 6.5 weeks. The first half of the last semester, right? And so even in the dorm room when he dropped me off, I brought, like a sample pack of IPA variety with me because I drank alcohol at the time, and he drank one with me. He wanted to make sure I was okay before he left. And then he left, and I remember when I had dinner that first evening back there by myself, the sadness just hit me while I was eating in the cafeteria. And then I retreated back to my room. It was a single room, so I was alone, and I just sobbed my ass off. I sobbed myself to sleep. I know some people would be like, you should be grateful that you're at a world-class music school. And then I cried when I woke up the next morning because I didn't want to be there. And when I was with people, I was able to manage like just fine, seeing the familiar faces, that helped. But then when I got back to my room, man, it was horrible. And it lasted for almost a month. It was like this. Every day I would cry when I got back home to my room. And I was, we were having some rehearsal practices, and I was working on my recital rep, but then I want to fast forward, and by the way, I want to say right now that during winter break, I projected myself into the future, to the future version of myself, who was already out of it. And I had this idea that there's this string quintet by Lucio Amanti, jazz composer, great composer, by the way. It's a string quintet. And for some reason, I had the idea that I was going to play with one of the violists, whose name is Ariana. With her and, some other people. I got this vision that I was going to play a piece like this near the end of the semester. I just want to cushion this here for now. I'm going to come back to that later. So the month of January passes, right? And I remember the date. It was January 27th. It was a Tuesday. And it was raining. This was the day where in the short term, I began to leverage myself out of the rut that I was in, right? So, I asked myself a series of questions. I was like, I forget what they were, but essentially it was like, okay, well, why do I feel the way I do? It was because, well, I didn't get into school. And I was thinking, okay, well, just because you didn't get into school, the program you prefer, does that mean you're a failure at life? No. Well, I asked myself, why do I think that would be a failure at life? Why? I was afraid of the unknown. And I didn't realize how transient things are. And I wanted to just stay in school, just to stay in school so I wouldn't have to confront the unknown. Because all I'd ever known in my identity was being in school. All I'd ever known was that structure, that regiment. And so the thought of that dying was basically like the fear of death itself coming upon me. So I realized this, and I realized that, man, I'm not going to be at this place, MSM, Manhattan School of Music. I'm not going to be there forever, so I can't change the future. What I can do is I can seize the day. What can I do today? What action can I take right now to make the most of the day? And that's how I apply it to my practicing. Then I started, when I got back home, I remember the duo that I was working on with Yeji, a violinist. It was a duo for violin and cello by Jesse Montgomery. I started practicing that piece. I learned my ensemble rep for Tactus. I learned my recital rep. I was doing all of this stuff. And fast forward to right before the spring break, not summer break, but spring break, right in between the halves of that semester, Tactus performed their second concert. By the way, you know what I want to do? Here's what I want to do. I'm going to switch tacks right now. Here's what I want to do. I didn't plan this, but I really did not plan this. I have a plan for how these two videos are going to go, but this one right here, I am, let me see, Alan Holozic, Campanula. I was in such a dark place, and such a, here it is, January 23rd, Tactus, Solos, Duos, and More. Let me, I'm going to go into OBS, gameplay. Let me go here. I'm going to full screen it. I'm going to check the volume, but this was so I wanted to do, well, let me make sure that that the recording's okay. Let me make sure the recording's okay. Okay, recording's okay. So I was here, and yeah, this was January. I think, what was it? January 2023. So I think this was this was before I figured my shit out. I think so. I forget on which side of the 27th. But essentially, I was like, okay, so there's a Tactus concert I have for solos, duos, and more. You either play a solo piece or you team up to do a duo with another person or something else. But most of the people did solo. So I was like, all right, you know what? I have my campanula. I want to do an improvisation because this is what feels right. So I want to share this because this piece of music reflects this. It was completely improvised, by the way. Everything here is improvised, right? So this completely represents the emotions I was feeling at the time. I want to play this now because I want to paint the picture of where I was at this moment. Because, by the way, in the November 2022 recital, I knew that I wasn't only going to be performing classical music for my life, for a living. I knew that something had to change. I knew that that wouldn't be it. And a year later, I'll get to that, but a year later, so November 2023, after I graduate, I'll get to that. But then that's when that door sort of closed. But anyway, let's listen to this. It's been a while. I forgot what this is like, so I'm kind of re-experiencing this again. Yeah, this is going to be vulnerable for me, so let's hear it. I'll adjust the volume as I need to, but yeah. Yeah, completely improvised. Complete improvisation. I'm walking on from behind the stage. You'll see me. You can see my rock stop right there. Chair. Oh, there I am. Yeah. I'm walking on. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Kind of dramatic, right? Yeah. Yeah, oh man, I was in such a state at this time. Holy shit. And by the way, I'll stop it now. I'll talk about this instrument. It was developed and invented by a German luthier named Helmut Bleffert. And I bought this. I think it was in like what 2015 or 2016 while I was still in high school. It was and so I've had it since then. And so essentially, what it is, it's a cello. A campanula is Latin for bellflower. So you can see the shape of the instrument is literally that of a bellflower, and also with the scroll. You know, instead of it's a scroll on a cello, it's a bellflower shape, right? And it has, I believe, 16 diatonically tuned resonating strings on either side of the bridge. You can kind of, you can't see it, but yeah. And it has only one, the F holes only have one hole, two holes. Normally there's another hole on the top, but this one doesn't. It has a straight end pin, but yeah, 32 resonating strings. So let's continue. Yeah, I was just. I'm not going to say anything. I should transcribe this. I'll definitely transcribe this, yeah. Hope. It's hope. That's what I'm getting. Hope. From rock bottom, it's hope. Hope. Tap to the end pin. Nice. Nice. Really took advantage of the resonance on this thing. Wow. It's modeled after the Indian instrument, the sarangi. So that's why it sounds kind of like that, you know? Yeah, very Eastern vibe to it. All improvised. Wow. I forgot how beautiful this was. Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. So creative. Wow. I forgot all of this. Wow. Talk about vulnerability. Wow. Okay, so it's an A major, obviously, with a C string tuned down to A. Yeah, drop tuning. It's like the percussive elements are like the transitions between sections almost, like a refrain that comes back. Oof, minor now. It's darkness coming in, sadness. Wow. Oh my gosh. So much pain. Yeah, anger, anger. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. That's why I was just looking. Shoot, where do I go now? Oh, I guess I'm done. Oh, okay. Well, see you later then, guys. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna. That was funny. Sorry. I could just tell. I could tell. But wow, no, yeah. I'm gonna let it play out. Yeah. I think it was a Greenfield Hall. And it was hard for me because that was the same hall where I played my recital from the previous semester. I played it that November 2022 recital. That was in this hall. So I was in the same place in the next semester. So talk about trauma triggering. Oh my gosh. Yeah, fuck. But no, that was good. And, you can imagine hearing that in the context of like contemporary experimental classical music, extended techniques, just technicality for sake of technicality, just, empty, shallow superficialness, and then thrown in the middle of that. Oh, there's the last note, the octave. Yeah. Just imagine. I mean, I think I came back on stage afterward and the room burst into applause, but, let me get back in here. Yeah, so I wanted to share that. Did that capture the audio, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It captured the audio. Okay. Good. I was gonna say it didn't. So where was I? So right at that point in the semester, I was in a rough spot. But fast forward 6 weeks down the line when Tactus is doing their second concert of their last concert of that first half of the semester. So it's the first ensemble concert. Sorry, let me just search up. I want to play another piece. I'm searching up Alan Holozic duo for, well, it's not me. I didn't write this. But it was the piece by Jesse Montgomery. Let me see if it's, yes, okay. So my computer's being weird right now. I might need to do something. Hey, sorry about that. So I had some difficulty. My computer sort of glitched out. I couldn't move. I could only see my camera screen, but black, no OBS, no nothing. It was just like, I was afraid I was going to lose all the footage that I recorded, but somehow I saved it. So anyway, picking up where we left off, fast forward to the end of the first, is this going to work? Oh, I hope so. Okay. Fast forward to the end of the first semester. Right before the end of the first, no, not first semester, first half of the second semester. This was where I was. This was the mood I was in because I really vibed with this piece. Just listen to this performance, the first movement at least. Okay. Yeah. Definitely a lot more fun, right? Just making sure my... Yes. I'll skip forward a little bit. And even more near the end. So all this is to say is that I had a really great time with this. Let's see. Yeah, I had a really great time at the end of that semester. So, we had a party at the local bar. And, then the next day my dad came to pick me up. And guess what? I wasn't really too attached to coming back home because the first time that I came back home, I was attached. I had an expectation, right? I wanted to go back to Eden. I wanted to go back to paradise, save me from my problems. I need redemption, right? This was the time, that first half of that semester, that was me learning how to redeem myself in this short span. And I came back home, had a great time, only a week, no problem going back. And then, let me see, what do you call it? I went back the second half. And then another concert. We did Tactus, and then I went back. Semester was what it was. The semester. And my recital repertoire that I did for my graduation recital. It's up on YouTube, right? You can watch this. Perhaps by Rina Esmail. Yeah, perhaps by Rina Esmail for solo cello. Chant and Threnos for solo cello by John Tavener. That first, so those three pieces all put together. Notice how I had to do the Esmail. It's a good piece, but still, I had to do that non-white, non-woman thing, which, sorry, I think when you have to force virtue, that's utterly silly. It's absurd. And I'll get to it's attachment to external materialist shit. Sorry, not sorry. But then after the first half, then I played the Vasquez Concerto No. 2 for cello and string orchestra, which is probably the number one concerto that impacted me the most. To this day, that piece holds a timeless resonance with me. And it will remain that, and also his string quartet No. 4. Vasquez, by the way, my favorite living composer, hands down, no question. No question. Definitely best composer born in the 20th century. No question. Absolutely no question. In terms of variety, no question. Yet no one knows about him. Because unfortunately, all these great masters, no one knows about them until after they're dead, right? So anyway, but the thing that's kind of uncanny about my recital is that the ending of the Vasquez Concerto No. 2 for cello and string orchestra. Let me just search up something. Alan Holozic. No, I'm not going to do it now. I don't want to risk anything weird. Oh, shoot. Oh, no. I did it again. So I have to edit that out. Who knows? My computer about glitched out again. Okay. I'm not going to play anything else. Okay. So, right. What this is to say is that the ending of the Vasquez Concerto No. 2 for cello and string orchestra, the ending of it, the very ending, it's this hymnic lullaby where the cellist sings a melody and I accompany myself playing while just there's this one violin line that's the accompaniment. That's it. So singing while playing, interesting. It would come to be a premonition, a hint of what's to come, symbolic, right? And also, in that semester, I was doing an independent study with shout out to Professor Susan Body at Manhattan School of Music, by the way, and also Peter Andreaki. Out of my whole music school career, those two humans are some of the most genuine, authentic, and inspirational humans that remain with me to this day, years later. So I thank you. So yeah, with Professor Body, I was doing an independent study, a composition, right? Because it was a requirement to do an independent study, right? It was a requirement to graduate. In your last semester, you had to do an independent study. So I did mine, and I took basically composition lessons, and I was going to do like a mini. And at the end, we did a mini composition recital, right? I sort of took initiative and was, I was involved in organizing it and programs and all of that stuff. And so essentially, I wrote a piano quartet called Prayer, I think. Or the alternate title was the omniscient knowingness of the infinite, or something like that, right? And guess what? That was a piano quartet, a chamber piece that I played with that same violist, and it wasn't happy. It was well, I don't know if there's a recording. I have to get, man, I should do a performance of that sometime as well. Damn. Wow. Yeah, no, that was a cool piece. The recording doesn't exist though. So all that's to say is, remember that premonition that I taught during winter break between the two semesters, and I had this idea that I was going to play this piece with that violist. Turns out that fast forward to the end of that semester, I played one of my own pieces with her, and then it was also Tommy on clarinet and Seth, who was the pianist, and Seth was also my accompanist for my recital. So, and then I graduate, and I want to say something really, 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 really weird. that happened. So at the time, I had my spiritual awakening, my awakening to the reality of extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, beings, like the fact that this conventional reality that we're sold to, the narratives. I realized I had my awakening in 2019, in my junior year of my bachelor's degree. So I was at Boston Conservatory right after my sophomore elective recital, right? Or I played Hayun or something like that. And at first I heard the story of like Corey Goode, but turns out it came out like he stole stories of other people. He lied, essentially. He made a lot of money off of it. But the phenomenon itself is true. So I was involved in this in a channeling group. I didn't channel at the time. I was, channeling sessions. I was speaking through entities. And I remember at the end of one of these sessions that I was told, I think it was actually, I remember I had a channeling session that I was, I spoke to a being through a channeler near like late January, early February of the last semester, right? I was in a dark place. And what I think it was some spiritual being, they said to me, I want you to listen, and I want you to listen very closely to me, Alan. I want you to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. That's what was said to me at that time. Fast forward to graduation, we have the commencement thing. We go there, I do the thing, and, be a party in the lawn and park. And so come back to in Ada's hall for the reception. And, my parents are there, and we're all mingling, and we're all meeting. Yay, big celebration. I finished it, right? A good, big chapter. So I say, when I'm going to say my goodbyes to Professor Botti, Susan Botti, that one who I gave a shout out, who I do the independent study with, she gave me the warmest hug, full of so much appreciation and love for me. It was like, I know this sounds bad, but I've never gotten a hug like that from maybe either of my own parents. And what she said to me at that moment was, and I shit you not, I'm not exaggerating or altering this or paraphrasing in any way, shape, or form. I kid you not, word for word, verbatim. She said, Alan, I want you to listen. I want to say something. I want you to listen very, very, very carefully. She said this, Professor Botti. The end of the semester, right? The channeling session was at the beginning. This is at the end of the semester after gone. She said, word for fucking word. I want you to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. My jaw just about hit the fucking floor internally. Word for word, exactly what was brought through from the channeling session at the beginning of the semester. Now I hear it through this human at the end of the semester. I still don't have a full explanation for this. But I know that there are forces beyond what we can perceive in this reality at play. That much is clear. And so I graduate, I go home, and by the way, at the end of each semester, my dad we would stop at the Yard House on the way back. Yard House is this restaurant, have like a meal and a beer and celebrate that I made it through, right? So we're home, and I take like a month and a half off, right? I get back May 19th was the last day, so May 20th we drive back, I played, what was the game, like Wizard 101, I was just chilling for a month and a half. May goes by, okay. June, yeah, it's still summer break, I'm used to taking a break, I'm just gonna chill. July comes, and I'm like, alright, summer's almost halfway over. What the heck am I gonna do with myself? What am I gonna do with my life, right? So I'm thinking, okay, let's see. What are the two main career paths for a career performing cellist, right? Well, you could either, I wasn't really interested in teaching, right? Because, I wanted to play, I wanted to do the thing. I didn't want to teach the thing. I wanted to do the thing. So first I was thinking, okay, well, let me see an orchestra. By the way, the orchestra, this is a tanking industry. That industry is dying. Career performing orchestral musicians, yeah. Long story short, I'll say a short anecdote. That teacher that I said, who I didn't say, yeah, they shared with me a story from one of their friends who they asked their parents if they could spend 2 years that they would support them, and they would practice 4 hours every day for 2 years straight for an orchestra audition. And they did that, and then they got it. They got the job, but then, guess what? Then they hated it. They felt trapped, and they had to stay because it's what pays the bills. So the thing is that, but at the time, I didn't have this conversation. So I saw there were only like 3 openings in the United States, none of which were entry level, by the way. The only entry level ones were in Europe. So the first one I applied to was I think it was Antwerp Symphony Orchestra. They had one cello position opening there. And so I was also planning to audition for a Rochester Philharmonic, but I didn't, because it's like, what, you would only make like, what, $40K a year to be a full-time orchestra performer, and you have to, and that's that cutthroat. Competition go up, demand goes down, salary goes down, audience age go up, no new faces. Sinking ship, if I ever heard of one, right? So long story short, I do everything right. I practice my audition repertoire for months. Well, before that, there was this one other group that I was also sent recordings in for, but it was this really cringy ass trio with this poppy hybrid crossover, just really fucking cringe. I'm not gonna say their name because I don't want to, like, you know, I don't know if I want to put anything. I don't want to have any bad juju out there with any of them. But the orchestra thing, so yeah, all of my excerpts, my 2 movements of Bach, my exposition of the Haydn concerto, for months I'm practicing this, playing again and again and again, and I get it to a consistent level, and then, okay, so then I have to spend $1,500, so $1,500, and I was working at a grocery store, so I only had like $4,000 at the time, so I spent $1,500 for a plane ticket. First I had to fly to the Amsterdam airport, and then take a train down to Antwerp, and I had to pay for like a 3 or 4 nights in a hotel by there. That's what I had to pay for. So I go there, do the transportation, all on my own, by the way. I go there, and the day before, I got there. The next day, I just wanted to acclimate because of the time zone difference. I just gave myself a day, right, to get used to. And I practiced, so the whole day goes by, okay. And then the next day is when the audition is. So I go in, I check in, I warm up. There are about 30 other cellists there, all of them trying to get the job, right? From all over the world. Japan, Korea, Italy, Germany, Finland, Canada, America, Mexico, United States, literally all over, right? And this group didn't require pre-screening, so they invited us all over. So, you know, I'm warming, and they're having us all go. When it comes my turn, I didn't get to play fully through the exposition. Not even 10 minutes in the Haydn. Not to mention the Dvorak whole first movement that I learned. The 2 Bach movements that I learned. All the excerpts that I learned. None of it. First 10 minutes, thank you very much. Ring the bell. By the way, it's behind, for those of you not in the classical world, there's a fucking screen you play by, so you can't even see the people you're playing at. It's just this weird, just mechanistic, it's just like some science experiment lab or something. It's just so inhumane. And so, you know, not even that goes by. So $1,500, 2 months to 3 months of practice, and you know, all of that stuff. I just get I don't even get through. They ring the bell. Next. So it turns out that it was an addition thing, right? Because there was this one point in the piece where no, it's so essentially in the first half of the measure it's G sharp, but then I played it as G natural because I thought musically it made sense, and you know, octatonic scale, for those of you who know, and then it goes to E major, right? Little did I know, in the addition, it stayed at G sharp because I played G natural. Right as soon as that section ended, I got the bell, $1,500, 2 months of practice, all that stuff. Thank you very much, goodbye. And guess what? I wasn't the only one. All 30 other 27 of the 30 other candidates got immediately let go, and there were 3 who remained. And guess what? They all know people in the orchestra. Confirmed, they knew people in the orchestra. And one of the cellists who else was there, he was French, he was downplaying, like, what was it, 2 cellos or some of the other groups, and he was basically saying that cellos being used in other genres is just cringe, right? It's like, and he said, classical only, and he taps his cello and kisses it. Classical only. Right then, I knew, all right, this place is not for me. So I'm in a bit of another dark place, right? Another bad place. Kind of like, this was when the door closed, right? Remember the recital from the year earlier? So this is a year later, roughly, also in November. First weekend in November, this happened. I have a track record with something like November. I had just November. At this point, I was just like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? By the way, the year after, I got scammed out of $2,000 in crypto. So yeah, November's just a bit of a rough month for me in general. I would say like April or May are like my favorite months at the time, right? So I go back home. I'm thinking, okay, identity crisis. I don't know what to do with myself. Should I even play music? I don't know. Meanwhile, one of my former schoolmates, they were in their second year when I was in their first year, and was now in the second year, they were already teaching at a university. And so here I am, a year after that, at home. Then I reach out to that grocery store because I need to make some money. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do, right? I need to make something. So I'm there. And like, okay, what the fuck? So I was thinking, should I go do... I was thinking maybe, well, I want to write my own songs, but I don't know how to sing. So I just started, what I did was like, at first I tried to hang on to it, and then I was like, nah, you know what, screw classical. Maybe I could, take voice lessons at School of Rock. It's this place that offers, like rock-related lessons. And so I didn't do that right then. I attempted to do that in the future. No, I think Did I? I forget. I think I did at the time. I started, but then it just wasn't a good fit, so I didn't do it. But what I said was like, okay, at first I was, I was going to write a song with lyrics and trying to sing, but the thing is, I first wrote a part with my cello mind, like as if it was a cello part. So many leaps, it just didn't sound good, but the lyrics were something, it was called Inside a Cell. So living life inside a cell. Something about like, breakout, That was the themes, but I didn't know how to sing at that time, and I was like, all right, this is so new to me, one thing at a time. So I wrote the first song just in my app called Notability in my iPad. Just sketching out, just writing it down while I'm taking on walks, and but then after I wrote the first, here's the thing. No, actually, the first 2.5, I was in the middle of writing the third piece, I should say, when I went to the Antwerp audition. So I'd already been writing that stuff, or beginning to write it like that, beforehand. So it wasn't like a one thing ends another thing begins. There was some overlap. But then I leaned fully into writing my own music, and then I used Finale notation software, and then I had to teach myself some basic recording, production, edit music, audio editing, electric cello, effects, acoustic cello, writing, all that stuff. And I came up with an instrumental album. So I told myself, okay, 2024, by the end of this year, I want to put out my first independent solo instrumental album. I don't know what's going to come after that, but this just feels right. And I did. I worked on that. And then in August, I finished it in August, and then in September 2024, I released my album Unveiling, Apocalypse, right? It's either or, but Unveiling is the name of the album, and it's available. I released it on TuneCore. It's available on all streaming platforms to this date. YouTube, maybe, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, iTunes. It's all out there. And the drums, I recorded the drums on my Alessis Mesh Nitro drum kit. sounds like ass because I didn't know how to mix it properly. I didn't know drum samples were a thing. So like, oh, I have to buy a drum kit and I have to drum this thing out. Took me, I kid you not, for the first song, it took me 2 weeks just to record the drum tracks. Why? Because everything was written on a score. Actually, I used the drum part. So I had a bass drum, so I couldn't turn the page, so I could only record a section at a time. And then I had to like, whew, yeah, I didn't know any better. It was rough. So I put out Unveiling. So the thing that's out there now, you put it out by a TuneCore, you can see that, right? And I was just wanted to do that just to prove to myself that I can do this thing, right? I can do it. Don't know what's going to happen afterward, but I can do this, okay? So I do that. But something also happened right before I released it. And the thing that happened right before I released it was on my way back from a certain retreat in upstate New York. About halfway back, on the drive back, right? It was a rental car and I paid for the insurance. Halfway back, it was like right before the border into Vermont, right? And I'm driving through. And I'm on this town called Mapletown Road. And the road, it sort of goes up, 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 and then on the other side, sharp right, kind of sharp right, like one of those country town, stagecoach trails. Just so I couldn't see that it turned right. And I was going a little over the speed limit because I wanted to get home before dark. I couldn't make the turn fast enough. So my rental SUV off-roads, it skids off the road through a wire fence, over a ditch, halfway through a cow field, tumbles and flips. Boom, 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 boom. I remember the smell, the sounds, the vibrations. I stayed fully conscious throughout that whole crash. And the car got smushed to like half its side. Miracle number 1, it landed right side up. Miracle 2, it didn't explode on me. And miracle number 3, I could get out and most of my stuff was unharmed. But it had to get towed. And it was in the middle of nowhere, and thank goodness there was one farmhouse in the middle of nowhere that kind of heard it, so they wanted to see what those distant bangs was. I don't know what would have happened if they hadn't come. But they came, they called an ambulance, I called my dad, insurance, and you know what? So you're driving back from a retreat that went well, like, man, feeling pretty spiritual, great. You crash your fucking car, gets crushed to bits, it's a rental car. I'm like, I can't walk. It turns out, I fractured 4 of my lower vertebrae, burst compression fractures. So fast forward. So what happens is I'm sitting in their van, right? And they call the ambulance first, and then the cops come and they scavenge out like my water bottle, which had juice in it, and like some Trader Joe's cheese puffs just so I could eat. But the car was like totaled, right? So, but my stuff wasn't. The only casualty was a bag of cheese balls. No, they gave me the popcorn. The cheese balls and this plastic fan were the only casualties, right? And so it got towed, but the thing is, so, yeah, they bring me to, because it was right over the border, so they take me to Southwest Vermont Medical Center. They wheel me in, I'm like, shit, and the cops ask me, they were really friendly people. Really friendly people. And so I'm there and I'm waiting and they come in and it's late at night, right? So I'm with 2 physicians, right? The first physician comes, he's like, oh, let's maybe it's bruised, they were running tests, but then they were about to discharge me. I needed to stay overnight here. So here's my situation. So I'm in this bed, laying up, my back hurts like hell. I don't know what's gonna happen. Shit, what's my dad gonna think? Shoot, how am I gonna get my stuff? I don't know where my car is. It's a rental car. How much is that gonna cost me? Am I ever gonna get my stuff back? Even if I can walk, where am I gonna go? How am I gonna, This is what was going through my head at the time. So then what happens is, God bless one of the doctors. That one of the guys, he said, he looks like he's in a little bit too much pain. Maybe we should run a CAT scan, right? Or an x-ray first. I think they did 2 x-rays, right? The first one was some, they couldn't tell on the first x-ray, but the CAT scan, they ordered a CAT scan. So they did that, and then they confirmed that, so you have burst compression fractures through L2, L3, L4, and another one. So burst compression fractures basically imagine a walnut. You go like that to it, and it like, it's still there, but the muscle's holding all these tiny little pieces and fragments of bone together, just loose sitting there. So any wrong moment, it could actually puncture into my spine and cause irreparable damage, right? So I couldn't move, right? It did nothing bad happened then, right? But I was like, oh shit. And if I tried moving, it was like, ah! It was like someone twisted a dagger in my back, right? So I call my dad. It's like midnight. Hey, I'm in Southwest Vermont Medical Center. So long story short, I got into a car crash, and I tell him everything I told you. He's like, what? 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 Well, so it's like, oh, you calling me in the middle of the night? No, you wake me up for this? Man, no. So at first, then he hangs up at first. And then now I'm really having a nervous breakdown because I got nothing. And at first, I think this was before they did the CAT scan, right? So I was like, shit, they're going to let me go? What the fuck's going to happen to me? I have no car, none of my belongings. I'm hurt. I'm going to owe a shit ton of money. No way to get back home. I'm fucked. What am I going to do? I was honestly thinking, well, maybe I could sleep on the side of a street. I shit you not. This is what I was thinking. Then they do the CAT scan. And then after they do the CAT scan, synchronistically, while I'm waiting for that, my dad calls me back. It's like 1 a.m. now. Hey, sorry, I just was in a pissy mood because you woke me up. But you're up there? Okay, look, I'm sorry, but okay, I'll come get you. So, God bless my dad. Middle of the fucking night, gets up, gets in his car. By the way, from here, Somerville, Massachusetts, to, what was it? It was, I forget the name of the town. It was Southwest Vermont Medical Center. So it's like a 4.5-hour drive. So he leaves at like 1 a.m, drives through the whole night. This is my dad, right? So he's driving through there, and man, I was even more moved to tears and humbled beyond belief when he drove me back. I'll get to that. But yeah, so he drives up in the middle of the fucking night on the interstate from Somerville, Massachusetts to basically southwest of Vermont near the border of New York State. He gets there. I had the scan done. So he's sitting there waiting with me in the night. And so they get the results of the CAT scan back. And they say, yeah, you got the fresh compression fracture. So they wanted to send me out to, I'm making sure I'm still recording. They wanted to send me out to either Albany, New York Medical Center, or Dartmouth, up way northeast Vermont, like near the border of Canada. They wanted to send me out there because they were affiliates with both of them. And the ones who did the analysis of the x-rays were like, they were of the the residents up there, right? So we're like, my dad and I, we're like, fuck that. We live in Boston. Because what we want, his idea, and what we ended up doing was, we're gonna go back to Boston, and you know what? We don't need you to drive. Like, I'll drive. My dad said he'd drive me back, and we did. So it was against their advice. They say, look, the doctor said, look, I can't tell you what you can or cannot do, but I highly advise against this because Alan, you're talking about me. He is in such a condition where if he moves, if one bump happens, that could send a shard of one of his broken vertebrae into his spine and literally cause him to like permanent damage, right? So he still did it, right? So I get wheeled onto, they unwillingly, a discharge, right? It's called an unwilling discharge. So, and by the way, I was on Mass Health at the time, so I wasn't making much. They paid for everything, by the way. It wasn't a worry. So they wheel me out there. My dad goes get the car, my mother's car, because I had a rental car. Thank goodness I paid for the $90 insurance on rentalcover.com. So that made the only thing I had to pay was a loss of use fee for $800 instead of $26,000. I only had to pay $800. So if there's one message, if you take a rental car, pay the fucking insurance. I thought, man, I'm not reckless. Nothing's gonna happen to me. No, pay the damn insurance. You never know. I'm serious. You never know. So he gets the Honda. I'm waiting for him. Still on the stretcher, laying out there, you know. And so he pulls up, and on the shotgun seat, front row, right side, he puts the seat as far down as it can go, which is almost vertical. No, sorry, not horizontal. Doesn't go fully horizontal. So he puts a towel on top of that, and like a pillow in the place, in the crevice between there's the bottom of the seat and then the top. Put the pillow there. And then somehow it took me like a full at least 3 minutes with the help of both one of the nurses and him, to shimmy my way in to that car and lay down. And I'm just like freaking out because it's just so painful. And I'm like, oh no. And by the way, here's the thing. So he came up. I forgot this. When he came to me in the hospital, right before when they got the CAT scan back, he told me, he asked me, well, where's your stuff? Where's the car? Where's the belongings? I told him that they towed it to this place, and the cops, the police they gave me the accident report. They gave me the address of where it was located at. So and the name of the place. So I Googled it up because I didn't know the address. All I had was my phone. So I Googled it up. Told him the address. He goes there. Nothing there. Doesn't find it. Calls me. And he says, look, where is it? I'm at this place. The name of the place. But they changed addresses. So he goes then to the right address. And he, at first there was no one there. And then he waited until they opened. And then it's like, private property, no trespassing, right? He said, look, my son got into an accident. I don't know what he said. I wasn't there. But essentially, he found the car. It was on top of this pile. It was like crushed. He sent photos of it to me. It was like SUV, and then bam, like a fucking burger patty. I kid you not. It was like half the size. It was obliterated. It's a miracle in my corner of I could have literally died. Okay? So he salvages all of that stuff, except for the fan and the bag of cheese balls, or Cheetos, whatever. And I think he sprained or stretched his ankle jumping down because it was on top. So anyway, fast forward short, we drive from Southwest Vermont Medical Center, and we drive back home. Well, not home. He takes me directly straight to Mount Auburn Hospital emergency room, and they have to get me a wheelchair, right? Because I can't walk. Checks me in there. I'm waiting. And then they check me in, and he tells me then what the situation was. And by the way, when they discharged me at the Southwest Vermont Medical Center, they gave us a flash drive of the files of the x-ray scans that they had. Just so then we gave them that at Mount Auburn Hospital. We gave them a copy of that. They gave me some pain medication immediately, which honestly, it made me it was like the good shit, right? It was like I was fucking high or some shit. The bed was super comfortable. It's like, okay, this is like, so I'm beginning to float back down to earth, right? Like, okay, I'm at home. My stuff's recovered. I paid the insurance. My dad's not fucking livid at me. Okay. So he goes home, and then, what was it? I think, so they reach out to Dr. Joseph Simon, who's their spying guy in Boston. Great, my dad actually knew him. So that's how he was able to get me, so they reach out, they send it to Joseph Simon, who had already left for the day. They call him and say, yeah, he got into this accident, and he got out of the car. And apparently his reaction was, wait, he got out of the car? Because with the way the x-rays looked, and I was able to get out of the car, he was shocked. So he comes back, even though he'd already left for the day. God bless this guy. Comes back, and he is like, okay, well, you're gonna need surgery, so let's schedule a date. So the next day, he comes in, I have my surgery, anesthesia, whatnot. And so essentially I need 8 screws and clamps total for all the 4 vertebrae, and on each side, right? So 4 times 2, and 2 metal rods, which, by the way, I still have in my back almost 2 years later. But it feels so much better. It almost feels like I don't have anything in there, It doesn't have to come out, he said, but maybe I'll get it out. I don't know. So it's still fresh, right? It's literally, the metal is still in my body. Talk about me being a metal musician, a metal person, right? I'm a metal guy. No, I literally got metal in my back, so I'm as metal as it gets. Sorry. Jesus. So the thing is, yeah, and then I have a room there, so it takes me about a week until I'm able to get back home. Right? I need a walker. I'm like, shit, am I gonna be able to walk again? I had to work with a physical therapist for a while, so I get back home essentially, and then I have to deal with all the insurance shit, the rental stuff. So I take care of that, and then after I do that, I'm like, oh wait, here's what I'll do. Let me release my album. Then I release my album. So I'm healing. I'm just like, all right, you know what? I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, so the next 6 months were just me spent like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with my life. And B, my back's fucked. I gotta be really careful, so that way I don't redo any damage or prevent it from healing. So I'm doing this, and basically, in December of this month, I had a trial. I did a trial. I was searching. I had a trial with the vocal. I had 2 lessons with a vocal teacher at School of Rock, Watertown. Didn't work out. Wasn't what I was looking for. And then I also had a trial meeting with David at I believe you could say Scream Academy. So it's type in Scream Academy. And David Wu, who's the guy. This is foreshadowing, right? I had a consultation with him. I was still looking. I was still searching. And then in March, I was like, oh shoot, maybe I could become a teacher, So I was like practicing etudes one day and then classical. So I was searching. I was searching from September 2024. And by the way, I believe it was March of 2024. So earlier, before the crash, while I was working on my album, I get let go of at one of my job because of some bullshit. Because I think so. A customer, I really got along with them well. They were really cool as a girl. We bonded over the same character we liked. She had pins of them on their backpack. She liked the same kind of music. And so what happened was I was like, oh, are you a rewards member? And she was like, yeah, I am. I can give you my phone number. So I did. And so I memorized it. And then later I texted her off work, by the way, off work. I thought we were friends. So what happens is I'm not going to say her last name, but I'll just say her name was, she was an Amanda. And so I text her and say, hey, I really appreciate, the talking with you. I was wondering if you wanted to hang out sometime, right? So I'm thinking, okay. So she responds back and she says, hey, dude. She says dude, or no, man, or dude, or something like that. One of these tomboy girls, by the way, just for the record, no, I'm not going to say what she looked like. I don't want to do her like that. And even though part of me kind of wants to. No, I'm not going to do that like that. I don't want to. So there are many Amandas out there, okay? So I'll just say this Amanda person. She texts me back saying, hey, man, look, this is really inappropriate. You totally shouldn't be doing this. You should, delete my number right now. Don't text me back. And so I say, oh, okay, sorry, totally understand. By the way, okay, sure. I completely acquiesce, completely comply, delete her number, right? Okay. So I think, okay, well, she kind of overreacted a little bit, but, okay, I won't text her. The next shift I come in, I check in, I clock in. My manager at the time is like, hey, Alan, can you come with me? It's just Greg wants to speak to you, so if you can follow us upstairs. So I get called upstairs into the office. And they said, hey, Alan, can we talk about Amanda? And then right now, and then obviously I get a sinking feeling. So apparently she filed a harassment report with the cops for abuse at the place I was working. And so long story short, they fired me from that job. They let me go. And the reason I worked was the reason I reached out to this person was because I was at a low point already and I got let go of. No, I was at a low point. I was alone. I was like, I just wanted a friend. I just wanted someone. But apparently she had male trauma and thinks that any guy who reaches out to her, it must be some predator or something. So she filed a harassment report with the police and they fired me then. This leads me to being unemployed for 9 months. I get on unemployment benefits, make $170 a week, And right, this is in early March. So I'm like, okay, well, the silver lining is I have more time to work on my album, my instrumental album, right? And then I do the retreat. And by the way, the last day of the retreat, they did a forgiveness exercise, something. So they wanted us to practice forgiving someone. So really they wanted us to get into the state, feel the emotions of what we feel to the person, and then let it go, release it into the water. I was the only one who this was still fresh, right? And then guess what? Right after this, I had the crash happened, and my unemployment was about to run out. No fucking money, no job, no. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. So September, October, November of 2024. Well, no, September, and then, so October 18th, well, October 2024, yeah, wow, it's been a year and a half since I started there currently. I'm still working there. And so I get hired at a Whole Foods. The manager's now different. A lot of people change. There are only like 2 or 3 people who are still working there. So I get hired then, and I'm working there while I'm thinking, man, what the hell am I gonna do with my life? I don't know. Like, what the fuck did I miss in the handout? Like, some people are like, how this person got a university job, this person's part of an ensemble. What the fuck's going on with me? Why is my life fucking nothing? Right? So fast forward, I'm searching up until, I think it was like June or July, and I think I hear something. I think this was when I discovered the band Imminence. They're a Swedish metalcore band. And if you don't know, essentially their singer, their vocalist, Eddie, he sings and screams, metal vocalist. He also has a classical background with the violin, so he plays violin and sings. My mind was blown. Wait, a classical string instrument in metal? What the hell? You were talking to a guy who, in that room over there, when I was a child, I played Guitar Hero religiously. I almost played rock guitar at School of Rock when I was a child because I love that genre. So then I hear Imminence and I'm like, all right, you know what? I want to do cello rock. I want to do cello metal. But I don't know how to sing or scream, but I want to do it with lyrics because I think a lot. I have a lot to say. I'm very intelligent with words. So August 2025 comes around now, right? A year after the crash about. And I reach out to David, Scream Academy, say, hey, yeah, I'm looking to be a student. This is what I'm trying to do. You want to meet? So yeah, so it was a 12-week long course. I learned to scream before I learned to sing, worked with him. And then I do that. And while I'm doing that, well, actually, no, before I worked with him, I composed and wrote in Finale voice, cello, bass, guitar, drums. That's what I scored it for. So it's they're trios, right? So I'm to be vocalizing and playing electric cello, 6-string electric cello at the same time. And then my idea is to do it with a bassist and a drummer, right? So I recorded the stems individually. I got at first I did, I recorded I didn't know any better. Electric drum. I was like actually drumming it out, and my gosh, recording double bass kick drums with an Alessi Semester Nitro kick, it sounds like you're listening up to a sped up version of someone limping. Because the pedals are so different, I had to reprogram my hi-hat foot pedal to sound like a bass drum because it doesn't come with a second bass pedal. And I bought a second bass kick pedal to try to put right beside the on the drum, but it wouldn't sound. It only sounds if it's in the center. So I recorded the drum track. Okay, record the bass part on the electric cello and the cello part. I record the instrumental parts individually. Excuse me. For my first song, I Never Go Down, right? And then I go through 12 weeks of learning to scream, false chord, fry scream, the whole deal. If you're watching this, David, hey man, I hope people go check you out. You deserve it. You're a real one, man. And then as I'm learning to scream, I'm using my, I have the tracks recorded, so I'm practicing just screaming, not even worried about the instrument. I go on a cello hiatus. I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn my vocal technique here. So I practice screaming learning metal vocals over my song never go down. I bring that to the lesson, and he gives me assignments. He even had me try to sing a portion of "Given Up" by Linkin Park. Different things. So 12 weeks go by, and then I'm like, okay, so I can sing. I can scream metal. I knew the reason why I did the screaming first was because I have perfect pitch, and I intuitively knew how to sing, what pitches, what time, what tone. Limited though, but I could. So I was like, I knew less about screaming than I did about singing. That's why I did what I did. I did screaming first, and then after screaming, I did that, and then I was like, okay, now I want to do singing. But before I learned singing, I want to go for the other 4 tracks, right? Because I Never Go Down, which is like this doom, metal thing. I Won't Suffocate, which is this sort of hybrid mishmash of this like rock elements of metal, elements of like, it's a progressive. And then Slave Economy, which is like this rap kind of song. And then Fuck Your Fear, which is this uplifting, empowering rock anthem. So I was like, all right, I'm going to record all of the instrument tracks. And I knew drum samples existed at this time. The metalkickdrum.com plus Ableton samples. So I didn't have to record the drum tracks. I used drum samples. Then I recorded the bass part and the cello part, and I recorded those individually. First thing, fine. Okay, great. Have that. And then I decide to enroll in Chris Liepe's course, Discover Your Voice. So he's an online, you can just search in Chris Liepe. He does reaction videos. He's an online vocal coach. Whew, can I say that word? So I haven't like live spoken with him yet, but I have a lesson like in late May, a live lesson. I got the ultimate bundle, right? Which includes the regular 12-week course, Discover Your Voice, which, by the way, anyone who is interested in doing anything with their voice, musician or not, I highly recommend his course. It is so technically efficient and palatable, yet without any of the pretentious bullshit terminology of some pedagogical circles, all right? That's all I'm going to say. So, Discover Your Voice. Worked through that. I did that, learned how to sing. Okay, now I kind of know how to use my voice. And I practiced getting isolated recordings of me doing section by section of my vocal track, because I'm like, my voice is still new. I was still breaking it in. And what am I saying? I'm still new to singing. I've only been doing this less than a year, since basically right before the beginning of this year, as of the time of recording this video. Late December, I believe the first day I started working on that course was December 30th, 2025. So basically, literally, right before the beginning of this year that I'm only 4 months into. So I'm still a fairly new vocalist, right? So I do the course, progress through it, but it also comes with a harsh vocals course and 2 practice packs, one for mixed voice, one for stamina. I haven't gotten into those yet. But the thing is, so I do that, great, I can sing now. And then I'm like, okay, now what? I have to start a band, but now I should practice for, so here's the thing. I started on March. This brings us up to, I believe, because I was like, shoot, what do I do? It dawned on me that, well, I'll get to this in another video, but essentially, after I do the Discover Your Voice course, so 12 weeks, roughly speaking, from, it's 3 months. Well, technically a little less, because I got done early, because, some of the weeks were, like, about theory, which I skipped past, because I have 2 music degrees. Come on, I know theory up to my ears, I don't need theory. It was the vocal technique, like, about resonance, throat, soft palate back of throat, resonance, vowel placement, things like this, distortion, how did those interplay, singing, heart, all this stuff. That's what I needed to learn. Head voice, chest voice, mixed voice, this stuff, right? Because I was trained as a cellist. So the thing is, me going out and saying, I'm going to become a vocalist, considering I had been playing cello for 16 years and I had 2 degrees, and I'm like, oh, acoustic cello is my land. I thought I was going to be a performing acoustic cellist. Now you're saying I'm learning to sing. So this is like literally me making the biggest step outside of my comfort zone in my fucking life, right? So that leads us up to March 14th, 2026. And since March 14th, 2026, that was when I started recording my practicing of started everything, right? My song Never Go Down, my song, all my music. I started practicing and I record my practicing. So that catches us up to the videos that are to come out, right? The videos that are to soon come out after this one. Well, there will be one more like this, and then those videos will come out. Those videos, so I basically caught you up to March 14th. And then starting March 14th, every part of my process I've recorded and I'm going to share. I'll get into the motivations for that. But for right now, this video was kind of a, I guess you could say, an extended recap of basically the major events and trajectories of my whole life up to date, right? So now you know who I am, what I've been through, and where I am now. Or, well, at least up to March 14th. And right now, I'm recording this on Easter Sunday, April 5th. And it's about 3 o'clock right now at the time of this, like, exact moment. Interesting not how it's like spring just begun. It's rejuvenation, right? So, I'm doing... So, yeah, we got it to March 14th. Cool. That's this video. I'm going to stop recording. I know, I'm going to have to, like, edit this stuff together because my laptop recording was being really, 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 really weird. Almost, like, crashed out a couple times. So I'm going to have to, like, edit this. But, I'm going to record another one. Okay? See you in that one. All right. Bye-bye.